Oh, it is live. Oops.
There we go.
There we go. Welcome to McChats live here on McGTV. That's youtube.com/Mike McGTV. And as always, I'm your host, Mike McG. And as always, when it comes to these types of movies, I am joined by my friend from Three Geeks Podcast, Mr. Dan Baugher.
Hello. I'm not sure if that's an honor or not.
No, I'd say it's an honor
to be joined for these types of movies.
Hey, someone's got to watch these types of movies.
Fair enough.
Why not us? And you can check out the latest episode of Three Geeks Podcast over at youtube.com/Three Geeks Network. We just got done recording a new episode with Jason and Max, so go check that out after this. But this is something Dan and I have been kind of talking about off and on with regards to whether or not this was a movie we want to watch for the site and kind of do a review on. And as with any good horrible movie, Dan's got pages of notes apparently, so I can't wait to get into this. This is The Keep from 1983, like a horror fantasy Nazi movie directed by Michael Mann and originally based off of the novel by F. Paul Wilson that actually kind of started his whole shared universe involving the Repairman Jack character and stuff like that. Which are you familiar with a lot of the source material for this?
I read
universe?
This book for the podcast, and I've read a lot of the Repairman Jack ones when I was a teenager, so that part's rusty.
What do you recall about Repairman Jack? Because I'm just getting into the Tomb, which is I think the first appearance of the character.
Repairman Jack was kind of a badass. Like he's the guy you call when like there's some weird supernatural shit going on, and like nobody else can fix it. And you don't want to go to the cops, so you call Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And he does like normal things too.
Yeah, like he's got relationship issues and things like that. And
yeah, he's kind of like the Equalizer meets Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
Cool. Like I'm just gotten like halfway through the Tomb, and I'm still enjoying the read.
Yeah.
So it's definitely got me intrigued in this world because what I've gathered is that Repairman Jack, not only does he deal with like street level, like fixing people's problems and stuff, but there's a supernatural element that sometimes works its way into the narrative. And it arises from similar beings like the ones that are going to be in this movie to keep. Repairman Jack's not at all in this movie or in this story even. This actually happens way before the character's ever introduced. But
okay, maybe spoilers though.
Yeah.
Isn't he descended from the kid that they make in this?
Yes, something like that. Or he's like prophesied to be the one who's gonna bring balance to the force or something.
Wait a minute, that's the wrong franchise, sir.
I wouldn't be surprised if George Lucas during prequel writing took a page out of F. Paul Wilson's book, but no.
Yeah.
He's destined to kind of be a big factor in this war between light and dark or whatever that takes place in this world. But it doesn't matter because this movie that's based off of the novel, like you mentioned, this is the only movie that I guess has gotten adapted from F. Paul Wilson's work. So probably all for the better because, man, this movie.
Yeah.
You want to give kind of a summary of what this movie's about?
Maybe the best way to do it is you tell me what the movie's about, and I'll tell you what the book's about.
All right.
Because they're very different.
Yeah, that makes sense. We can just start off because this film in particular just kind of drops you right into stuff with how do you say his name? Jürgen Prochnow. Jürgen Prochnow.
I love that dude, by the way.
You know him as Kyle MacLachlan's dad from Dune.
Yeah. The sleeper must awaken.
Yeah. And he was in Air Force One and Das Boot.
And Judge Dredd.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Judge Dredd.
We must open Project Janus.
He's killed by the big robot, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
He gets like his arms ripped off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all coming back to me now.
Yeah, because Rico.
Yeah, good old Sylvester Stallone dread. Anyway, so yeah, he's a Nazi named Klaus, Captain Klaus, and him and Gabriel Byrne as another Nazi have like this little dig or excavation, or they're occupying like this small mountain town or whatever where there's a citadel, and they're investigating the citadel. Like, you could kind of say this is along the lines of Raiders of the Lost Ark a little bit, I guess. They're looking for. I'm not entirely sure why they were there to begin with. They're just kind of there to get treasure, I think, silver or something.
No, they're just there to watch the pass.
They're just there. But then they discover like there's like treasures and stuff like that. Apparently, in
that's
the
the
citadel.
one part that they actually got right in the transition from the movie or from the book to the movie, is that the one like private guy, it just has his mind on treasure, and he finds the one silver cross.
Yeah,
because the whole thing is covered in these weird looking crosses, and so he plucks the cross out, and then wild hijinks ensue.
Yeah, it kicks off like all the supernatural stuff that's gonna be taking place, which includes like mist and pink lightning bolts and a giant golem-looking critter called what was his name again?
What was he in the?
Oh
Crap.
no, not Temescu.
Hold on.
Radu Molasar.
Molasar, yeah.
Radu Molasar. And basically, like, he's just going around the keep, the citadel, essentially killing off Nazis or whoever's in there, and they end up bringing in a Holocaust prisoner played by Ian McKellen, who's crippled and was a professor of Jewish historian, and his daughter, right, Ava?
Yeah.
And so he's brought in to kind of translate stuff, figure out what's going on. Molasar heals him. So it's kind of like Ian McKellen plays reverse Charles Xavier and starts walking again. So meanwhile, there's a guy named Glaken, named Scott Glenn, played by Scott Glenn Stick, who comes to town, has sex with Ava for reasons. Has really, really bright purple eyes, and fights Molasar, I guess, and gets sucked into the cross doorway. I can't. It's really weird. And Ava lives to fight another day. And Ian McKellen has an awesome bit of acting where he tries to convince Molasar to take a cross out of his hand, and Molasar can't. And so Ian McKellen's just there going like, if you're capable, you take this cross out of here. Take it! And just like screams that at the top of his lungs. And I'd say that's the best part of the movie for me. Is just a little bit of McKellen cheesiness.
My note for that is just Ian McKellen sucks in this.
It's kind of fun sucking though, at least.
Yeah, I mean his whole accent during the beginning part is just like he came from some kind of like a Maltese Falcon, like a film noir kind of film. And he just doesn't fit at all.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So that's the story. I mean, what were some other comparisons, stuff that did or did not make it in from the novel that you mentioned?
Okay, the movie had like a 4-hour cut. That and this is a Michael Mann film, by the way, gentle viewers. Which he's done some great films. This is definitely not one of them.
No. Let's see here.
Now
he'd only done one other directing thing before this, and that was for a feature film, that was Thief in '81. But then he'd done stuff, of course, like writing for Miami Vice and everything like that. But
yeah, and Thief was like critically acclaimed at the time. I mean, This was just like it had a bad opening, and like the reason you can't find it on DVD and Blu-ray is because both Michael Mann and F. Paul Wilson hate this project.
Yeah. But I found it on iTunes. Where'd you find it?
I found it on Amazon Prime.
And the ratio is amazing.
Oh yeah, this is okay. It says HD, right, when you click on it in Prime, but what they did was up-res a VHS copy.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is it in 4:3, but every time there's fog, which this is a movie with tons of fog.
It's a very foggy movie.
It looks like you're viewing it through a screen door. I mean, it's really bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, the movie like just cuts giant chunks of the book out, which usually happens when you transition a film from a movie. But this has weird changes that don't make any sense. Okay, the two Nazi parts and the kid who rips the silver out, that's from the book. But in the movie, Dr. Kutza is a staunch atheist.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, one of the main plot things is that when Molasar comes to him, like he shows him a Christian cross and he backs away like a vampire.
Yeah.
But then he starts doing Jewish prayers, and it doesn't faze him, and it starts this whole like loss of faith with him, which you learn is what Molasar feeds on.
Yeah.
Because that's not his real name. His real name is actually Rossalam, which is Molasar backwards.
It's goblin spelled backwards.
Nilbog.
Nilbog.
But and he was imprisoned there by Glenn from the book,
which is Nekgalag spelled backwards.
But yeah, he was in prison in the keep, and basically what Rossalam and Glenn are the two remaining fighters from like the last age of man.
Mm-hmm.
And like the gods just decided to have this giant battle like thousands and thousands of years ago, and they were both like the gods champions, like one's chaos and one's basically order. Mm-hmm. And they just left because everything else died.
Yeah. And so basically Glaken's been walking the earth, not unlike Kane from Kung Fu.
Yeah.
But he's like, wherever he is, he's aware of when someone breaches the keep or when that barrier is, because he immediately comes knocking.
He also kills quite a lot of people on his way in.
Yeah, that is true.
Huh. No, in the movie he doesn't. He just like knocks him over and leaves. In the book,
I thought he was just
like stabbing him.
I interpreted that as him killing, because he could just kind of feel Scott Glenn throughout this just seems so Spockish and weird that when he was kind of combating people, I just figured, yeah, those people are just dead and he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, but in the book, like he paralyzes the two guards at the beginning of the town.
Mm-hmm.
And then he shoots one and stabs the other one with his bayonet. And he just drives off like la la. Also, I thought it was kind of weird that in the movie, when Molasar Rossalam guy, well, first of all, he's a giant Power Ranger villain at the end, which is kind of weird. But when he kills somebody, they're all burned and charred, and their heads explode.
Yeah.
In the book, he starts out like pretending he's a real vampire, so he just like rips open their neck.
No, so it was a little bit more, I guess, diverse and graphic.
Not just like blowing up and burning people.
Well, the one thing I gotta say about the Molasar design is I'm like, thank goodness the engineers from Prometheus had somewhere to start, because when he isn't just this critter in a cloud, as you can see from the title card here. He's very engineer looking and lumbering, and yeah, I could see Scott Glenn very much outmaneuvering this thing.
Yeah, and the weird laser light show at the end is kind of strange.
I will say one thing about this movie, speaking of laser light show and what worked for me in combination with that, especially when you're mentioning the scene of the guy taking the silver, was the Tangerine Dream soundtrack.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. It works in Blade Runner. I don't think it really works here.
That's the thing is, I don't know. Just for that one scene when they are getting the crosses and stuff like that, it worked. And this album could just work for me as an album, probably, but not with the rest of this movie.
I mean, it's like a really long music video. It's just I don't find it that interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the one thing that they did add the book didn't have was the priest for some reason.
Oh yeah, what's his name?
Like 20 minutes to that dude, yeah.
Or Father Finescu, played by Robert Prosky.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the point of having him there was, but
yeah, well, you can say that for
most of this film.
Film.
There is actually a love story in the book that ramps up to them having sex. It doesn't just like happen like it does in the film.
Yeah. Well, first off, let's talk about, because I feel poor what's her name? Alberta Watson, who plays Ava, who plays Ian McKellen's daughter in this. Because before Glaken even comes in, like, she's almost sexually assaulted by two Nazis.
Yeah.
And then Mulisar, ends up dealing with them. But then she's over at the inn outside the keep, I guess, because that's safer. Glaken shows up, says like 2 words to her, and then they're both just kind of staring out of the window, and then sex. And even when I was watching that before I did a little bit more research about the longer cut of this film, I'm kind of like, it feels like there is something missing here. And sure enough, there was a little bit more between them before that.
Yeah. I mean, watching this movie again really makes you appreciate the book. It's probably not a really good thing, but yeah, like the characters have so much more time to, be fleshed out and stuff. And you had the time in the movie, they just don't flesh them out at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and again, it sounds like this is another thing where we've seen it in a couple of movies this past year with regards to the studio being like, nope, you got to trim it. Like you said, there was an original 4-hour like running time for this, and they were like, got to cut it down to like 96 minutes. And Mann was like, okay.
Yeah, but you can do, character development well and quickly. You don't need to take the whole 4 hours.
Yeah. But it sounds like a lot of the deleted stuff was that stuff, which, like you said, could have been integrated maybe in short bits here and there to actually give ideas as to the motivations for these characters. Like, for example, there was more backstory, like you said, for both Glaken and Mulisar. There was a reason why Ava and Glaken got it on, and Glaken actually killed somebody, apparently, in the original cut.
He kills a lot of people. He kills the boat guy. He kills the 2 guards. He kills a bunch of Germans.
So it's like, yeah, apparently all those deaths were originally shot, but you just never saw them.
I don't know.
No, it says here, like, one of the deleted, he kills the boat captain for trying to steal his weapon.
Okay, apparently.
Yeah, and Alexandru being killed by his sons when the corruption starts throughout the village.
That actually makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it just seems like a really disjointed cut. I mean, I think you would be able to make like a 90-minute movie of this with like I really kind of want to see the 4-hour one.
It's got to be in a better aspect ratio.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But you could give that to like, film school students as like a test, like try and make the keep make sense in an hour and a half.
Oh yeah, that could really work. There it reminds me of, there was actually a film student who actually did this with both the uncut version of Alien and Prometheus. Is that he
Yeah.
actually edited like a master black and white cut of both films together. And so what was going on in Prometheus was paralleling what was happening to Ripley
Oh,
in
neat.
Alien. So it actually flowed pretty well, and like definitely you could possibly do that with this film too, and be able to incorporate those original scenes, have it be that long a running time, and still make it
Yeah.
interesting at least.
Because I really have to think that, I mean, you've got good names in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got Jurgen Prochnow, who's basically slumming it in like House of the Dead now, but
Yeah.
but I mean, you got Gabriel Byrne, close to the beginning of his career.
He was actually, I thought, for being like a psychotic,
Yeah,
commandant in a way, it's like he was pretty good.
yeah. I mean, they're not bad. They just have no motivation to the viewer.
Yeah.
The sets are really nice.
Yeah, the set design, and honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that it looks really stupid when it moves, the Molasar design is okay,
Yeah.
just as an image, not really as a actual credible costume or effect. But
like if they use that like for his like the gargoyles in like Ghostbusters,
yeah.
if he like broke out of that, that would be really sweet.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like it's it. If you can get past the crappy version that's available right now, you can at least appreciate some of the visual aspects of it. Definitely.
Yeah, like when the guy breaks into the fake wall of the keep, and there's
Mm-hmm.
that giant expansive cave. I want to see that in the
Extended.
yeah, with the aspect ratio it really deserves, because it looks like it would be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. But then I don't know. There are some moments too where the set, I'm like, it feels really, really, really sound stagey. Yeah. At times, some of the corridors don't really work for me. I'm like, Molasar's supposed to be popping out of the shadows, and he's so clearly just waiting for the cube out there.
What's the problem with making it HD? It's like when you can see the guys pulling the dolly in the original Hellraiser.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When the thing's coming down the hallway.
For the what was it for the engineer? Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same thing, I guess, man. When you clean it up, you accidentally get stuff you didn't want in frame.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else? Any other observations you had in your lengthy note taking?
Let me see. Glenn's got green blood in the movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Weird. Yeah, I don't get the whole laser light show at the end of the film. It just seems oddly out of place.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the end of Rat Race. When they end up at the concert. This is like these two guys are like duking it out, and they end up in Laser Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
When he gets sucked into the seal or whatever, I don't know why, but we had just been talking about it a couple of weeks before.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of when that one guy gets sucked into the pipe.
Oh God.
In it a little bit. It's not exactly like that, but I don't know why that visual was coming to mind for me with that. It's definitely a lot brighter, like you said, with the light show and everything going on.
Yeah. Because the end of the book has this like, multi tiered fight, where they're like running all over the keep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the end here is just like, well, we're just gonna hang out front here and screaming Ian McKellen.
Yeah, it's really abrupt.
Yeah,
but I can't even say like there was plenty of build up into it either, because the build up is non-existent.
Yeah, the whole pacing of this is just so off, and the Tangerine Dream doesn't help.
I'll stand by just the soundtrack on its own, but yeah, aside from the cross scene, nothing else about the soundtrack meshes with actual
Yeah.
film.
Mhm.
But well, I mean, again, I say this a lot too. Is this is a podcast I want to get started on here as well with you guys.
Yeah.
But this is definitely, I feel, one of those movies. I mean, if you're curious about bad cinema, I'd say give this a try. Definitely, like you mentioned, there's stuff about it to appreciate for sure,
Yeah.
but it's not. I didn't feel like I wasted my time. It is, at least it is short enough. It was, if it was the 4 hour version, I probably would have an issue with it. But
But then it might actually be a good movie.
yeah, but that's a gamble. That's kind of a gamble because who knows? Those deleted scenes may have just fallen flat anyways. Like
Yeah.
perhaps Michael Mann was really found himself in a tight spot with this film. It was just like, I got to make the best of it. What's the crap? What are the really crappy parts? I'll ditch those.
Yeah, I mean you're right. Like this is like bad film to take notice because I think this didn't start bad. I mean, you can just kind of see it veering off the tracks.
Definitely.
And I don't want to be too mean to it because it's got parts that work.
Yeah.
But it's so oddly paced and you don't know what's going on and you just end up shrugging your shoulders and going on with it.
Yeah. And looking back on it now, I have a feeling like this is something, maybe if he had been like a producer on it or co-wrote the script, it probably would have been better, way better. I mean, he does have a screenwriter credit on it, so
Yeah.
but in terms of direction, this is way beyond the scope of his usual fare. Like, I'd say, what would you say is Michael Mann's most ambitious film that he's directed?
Hold on. Before I say this, let me make sure it's a Michael Mann film. Yeah, okay. I'd say Heat actually.
Yeah, I'd say that was kind of the biggest one because everything else is very kind of small story for him.
Yeah.
I mean, Ali, but that's like a biopic, and you don't have to
Yeah.
strain too hard for that one.
I mean, Heat. It's not the actual story that makes it good and makes it Mann a competent director on. It's the way that he shows it. It's that beautiful gunfight with like no music.
Yeah,
I mean that is just an awesome scene.
it's very visceral. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's like it's got all the scenery, but it's trying to tell a much grander story than I think he can keep.
yeah. Ha!
Yeah, see that?
I see what you did there. Yeah, in terms of genre, I don't know if horror fantasy is really his thing at all. It's never really been something he's shown much interest for outside of this film, and clearly he wants to steer clear of this film.
He gets like cold sweats when they send him horror scripts. He's
Yeah.
like, no, the keep.
Nope, I've done that. I've done my fair bit for that, and look how it turned out. But what I want to say then, this is a movie though that I feel is deserving of kind of the reboot or remake treatment. I mean, people have said it before. It's like, if you're going to reboot or remake something, why not reboot or remake something that was, either bad to begin with or forgettable?
Yeah, like take the movie from the Ben-Hur remake and put it towards the keep, or something that you see as crappy but had potential.
Yeah. And especially since there is theoretically there is an expanded universe out beyond this one story.
Yeah.
Like in the book series, this story is supposed to kick off what the whole universal struggle is going to be throughout a lot of Wilson's novels.
Yeah, it's kind of like Wilson's version of like Michael Moorcock's multiverse.
Mm-hmm. So that's what I want to post to you is like, who do you think could handle perhaps actually bringing an updated version of this film to people that could work a little bit better?
I would jokingly say Zack Snyder, but it would turn out the same.
He did that. It wasn't that already a Sucker Punch? That's kind of like a keep, It's got Scott Glenn in it too.
Oh, geez. Man, I don't know. I mean, because you have to have a hand for drama and then
Yeah.
weird stuff too.
Guillermo del Toro. You could
You
definitely
could do that.
do a good pass on this because yeah, he can balance drama and weird fantasy.
Um, this could like kind of benefit from like a Bram Stoker's Dracula feel.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of the set design has a lot in common with
Yeah,
what Coppola was doing there.
it's nice and gothic. So yeah, yeah. I'll say Coppola.
Coppola, all right.
Yeah,
Um, I don't even know. Honestly, you could probably bring Scott Glenn back for the same character, just give him more to do.
whatever.
And you can find, I'm sure Christoph Waltz will be one of the Nazis at some. He'd probably play
Yeah,
Jurgen's character. He looks
yeah,
like him.
yeah. Came for or no? It's Vorman.
Borman, yeah.
Yeah. See, he's very sympathetic in the book. He's less so in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, between him and Gabriel Byrne, he was definitely
Oh yeah,
the nicer Nazi, I guess,
he's the good Nazi to Burns' bad Nazi.
because that's such a that thing exists.
Yeah, of course.
Um, what I would ask beyond this is, do you feel like the world, if they were to remake The Keep and it would be okay, I guess, do you feel like the world could be ready for a set of like Repairman Jack type movies?
Maybe it's been a long time since I've read the Repairman Jack books.
Mm-hmm.
I was pleasantly surprised rereading The Keep that Wilson's a good storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
That I think I read the book and then watched the movie and it soured me on the book for like 15 years. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible.
Yeah, and something definitely closer to the source material, something that definitely followed the novel a little bit closer, perhaps would work.
I mean, I would like to see, films happen because then you could get the books back in circulation again
Yeah,
because a lot of these are hard to find.
yeah, that was the thing is like I searched a lot of different stores around the area to find any of the Repairman Jack stuff, and all of it was not available or on Nook or whatever, which I don't have. And then it took me to go to Half Price Books when I was back in Ohio.
Nice.
And they had the entire collection there in half price. So if you were looking to revisit it, I'm sure they got the Keep somewhere there. Or they got one of the Repairman Jack novels there.
I was lucky enough to find somebody's old horror paperback collection at a yard sale, so I just snatched it all up. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, you sent me the message about it. That's right.
Yeah. I found the Keep, the Tomb, a whole bunch of Robert McCammon stuff, which is sort of out of print. Some Craig and Spector stuff, which is out of print. So I was very happy that day.
So I guess to kind of wrap up on this a little bit then is, where would you kind of place this on a scale of, let's see, Wired to The Killing of Satan? Killing of Satan being the penultimate, like, it's so bad, but it's so much fun. Yeah. To Wired being like, this put me in a depression because it's so bad.
Well, Wired just pisses me off. So, I mean, this is a giant mess with good intentions.
Okay, yeah.
So, it's just under, I'd say like 2 notches under Killing of Satan, but way above Wired.
Good. Yeah, I'd probably put it there. It's not so out there because it's, like you said, it's got good intentions. It's trying to ground the story a little bit more, whereas something like Killing of Satan is just swinging for all the fences and being just as crazy as it can be, even though it loses track of its story a little bit. It's just like, we're just having fun.
It still tells a coherent story. I mean,
that's true.
I can still tell you that Lando is, given these powers by his uncle to go stop Satan and the Prince of Magic. The Keep is just a mess. There's sex and then laser light show.
and a big engineer dude.
Yes, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I wasn't, like I mentioned, I wasn't mad about watching this movie at all.
No.
Part of me was having kind of fun with it, especially. Here's the whole deal. Yeah, especially when Ian McKellen is just like being so bad at this, but he doesn't. He clearly doesn't care. And that's fun when you have an actor at least like being like, yeah, this is going to be a forgettable one for me, but at least I'm going to have some kind of fun doing it. And especially just try to find that take it scene from The Keep, if anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't say, too much bad about this just because it tries.
Yeah, it tries. And it definitely failed in a couple of aspects, but you got to appreciate that it tried at least. And it, like you mentioned, it's not coming from a hateful or cynical type place. The cynicism is just what we kind of read into afterwards with the research about like, shit, this used to be 4 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's sad that instead of trying to fix it, like both, the author and the filmmaker just wandered away and tried to bury it. I kind of want to see the 4 hour cut.
Yeah, it did get like a TV run for a while, right?
I don't even know.
I think it was on TV. Ben, they had put in some of the scenes, I think, for just like once in a lifetime broadcast opportunities.
Oh,
But I'm sure we were like 9 or 10 or whatever when that
yeah,
happened.
really. Like, what? Who's this man?
Yeah, so.
We wouldn't have really understood it anyway.
But that is The Keep for us. As you probably gathered from here, it's a mess, but it's a somewhat enjoyable mess for us.
Yeah, I mean, watch it and then read the book if you're so inclined.
Yeah, and definitely like read into the backstory of what brought about this production, because after watching the film and then learning a little bit more of it after the fact, it is a very interesting story about what can go wrong with your project.
Yeah.
But that has been McChats Live here on McGTV, youtube.com/Mike McGTV. As always, I'm Mike McG with Dan Baugher from 3 Geeks Podcast. Check them out, youtube.com/3 Geeks Network. And I'm sure Dan and I will be back to talk about something very, very interesting along these lines. Again,
There's piles and piles of more movies to go through, sir.
Again, these are the movies. Someone's got to watch these movies, and why not us? So, take care, have a good night, and take it!
Nice.